So good morning and good evening. Welcome to Sri Aurobindo and Mother's Study Circle. And as we know, we are going through the passages of a compilation by Mr. A.S. Dalal. And the compilation is Looking from Within. So before we begin, we will just take a few minutes, few moments at least in silence, connecting with the breath, focusing on the breath, so that we can be more centered, so that we can be more present, so that we can be awake in and to the present moment. So no chant, no mantra, no music, just I and my breath for the next few minutes, and invoking Mother's presence and grace for the session. So no matter how much I get distracted, no matter how many times I have to bring myself back, that is all right as long as I get myself back. And this really helps me in seeing just so much clutter there is in my being. Unnecessary thoughts, repetitions, just coming to me again and again with no use, just an unnecessary occupation. So the more and more I become aware of these thoughts, of these preoccupations that take me away from the present, the more I will, I can aspire and pray for silence, for stillness, and to be present to what's actually happening, both within and around. Thank you. So we would know that we are doing chapter 1, and we have done 3 passages till now in addition to the introduction. So the first passage was about the power of attitude. Like what is the right attitude, where it stressed that circumstances in themselves mean nothing. Everything depends on the attitude we have towards our life, towards everything. And that determines where my life is going and can go. Second is the determining power is within. So again, on the same lines, that my force, my energy is within, and circumstances are just outside. The one that we did last time and the time before that, the right spirit, where again it was stressed that depending on the situation and circumstance, the right spirit is decided. And we had touched upon, how to connect with one's psychic being what is one of the main, the first steps that we need to do. And we had read about the psychic being. So we'll be reading more as we proceed forward, but today we will read from this compilation and the title is Seeking to Know. So if anybody is willing, they can unmute and read. Otherwise, I'll read. They can read the whole paragraph and then we'll take a reflection.
Namaskar, ma'am. I'll read it. Seeking to know. You must have a great deal of sincerity, a little courage and perseverance, and then a sort of mental curiosity. You understand? Curious, seeking to know, interested, wanting to learn. To love to learn, that one must have in one's nature. Not to be able to bear standing before something grey, all hazy, in which nothing is seen clearly, and which gives you quite an unpleasant feeling, for you do not know where you begin and where you end, what is yours and what is not yours, and what is settled and what is not settled. What is this pulp-like thing you call yourself, in which things get intermingled and act upon one another without even your being aware of it? You ask yourself, but why do I, but, but why have I done this? You know nothing about it. And why have I felt that? You don't know that either. And then you are thrown into a world outside that is only fog, and you are thrown into a world inside that is also for you another kind of fog, still more impenetrable, in which you live like a cork thrown upon the waters, and the waves carry it away, or cast into the air, and it drops and rolls on. That is quite an unpleasant state. I do not know, but to me it appears unpleasant. Ma'am, ma'am, would you mind if I read this one more time? Just I
Yes,
want to
please,
replace the
please.
you with I.
Yeah.
Thank you. Seeking to know. I must have a great deal of sincerity, a little courage and perseverance, and then a sort of mental curiosity. I understand, curious to know, seeking to know, interested, wanting to learn. To love to learn, that one must have in one's nature. To love to learn, that one must have in one's nature. Not to be able to bear standing before something grey, all hazy, in which nothing is seen clearly, and which gives me quite an unpleasant feeling, for I do not know where I begin and where I end, what is mine and what is not mine, and what is settled and what is not settled. What is this pulp-like thing I call myself, in which things get intermingled and act upon one another without even my being aware of it? I ask myself, why have I done this? I know nothing about it, and why have I felt that? I don't know that either. And then I'm thrown into a world outside that is only fog, and I'm thrown into a world inside that is also that is also to me another kind of fog, still more impenetrable, in which I live like a cork thrown upon the waters, and the waves carry it away or cast it into the air, and it drops and rolls on. That is quite an unpleasant state. I do not know, but to me it appears unpleasant. Thank you.
Yes, so now that you have read it twice and you must have had a strong grasp of it, why don't you reflect on it for us?
Yeah, I had to read it with the eye because it's like I'm telling myself this because that is more important to me than I reading it as with the use, and it feels like I'm telling someone while I myself am still a student and I want to be a student. On coming to this passage, I find that where it says to love to learn, that one must have in one's nature. These are the lines I had been repeating so many times to myself, and I would say that in job interviews or you know talking to anyone, I would say that I love to learn, I'm curious, but when the time comes and I I am I'm at a place doing the things repetitively, comfortably, and now there's a change in course. The first thing that naturally comes out is irritation. Why should this be like this when it's already good enough? That good enough thing in my inside my head, it takes a bit of you know back and forth, like two people fighting inside of me, arguing inside of me, and eventually they listen to it, but the pull has to be strong enough for the higher being to listen, like to be listened to. um, and the thing where it says, what is this pulp like thing I call myself, in which things get intermingled and act upon one another without even me being aware of it. That thing I did not understand, like pulp like thing. You can help me with some explanation.
Yes, thank you. So Vasu and Ritu, anything from you? It's about
Um, I'm just thinking about the pulp-like thing. Is it like pulp is just like, if you think about pulp, is like all mashed. It's like pureed. It's like soft. So there's no like defining. There's no solidity to it. So would that then be that like this everything's just enmeshed? There's no defining boundary. There's nothing like firm and concrete. And if you exercise that curiosity in your innate nature and always wanting to learn, then maybe you would be pretty solid. That's just how I'm interpreting and looking at this. That then it doesn't feel like anything's cloudy or hazy, and everything's pretty clear because as you exercise that curiosity, I think it just gets more and more clearer when you pursue that path. Uh, that's what is my take from this para.
yes, Vasu, thank you. Yeah, so pulp like is it has no identification, right? It has no distinction exactly like you were saying. So, for example, I acted this way, and somebody says, why did you? And I would be like, I don't know. Everybody was acting like that. Or, I something happened and I just reacted. And something inside me asked, why did you react? And my answer is, it just happened, right? So everything is mixed up, is what I think is being said, because I am not even aware of what's happening. I'm not awake to what's happening. So it's all just gooey and there's no distinction, there's no identity, no form, no shape, no character. Yeah. So exactly what you said.
So this pulp-like thing, can it also be our body that we don't know much about it?
I will share a shocking example to tell you that yes, it can very much be the body, and I'm still in shock by my recent discovery. I had some back issues, right? Like, and I was on bed rest kind of maybe 2 months, and so in that time I didn't do any yoga, any exercises and all because I was to be on bed rest. So when I started doing yoga very recently, I realized that some muscles in my legs were very tight. And according to me, in just 2 months, they shouldn't be that stiff. So I was just wondering what could be the reason because it didn't appear natural for me for it to happen. So the when I had that question in my head like for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days when I'm exercising, it's so stiff, so stiff. So one day while in the morning session, I realized that I have this tendency to keep my legs together all the time. Like usually earlier on I used to keep them on one on top of the other, when we are sitting. But I realized that my body is exerting a constant pressure to keep them together. Like just, that's just the way I sit. And then I realized that, oh my God, like the amount of tension in that particular muscles has been there, I don't know for how long, that I'm not even aware that I'm constantly exerting pressure in that muscle group voluntarily, that it is becoming so rigid if I'm not exercising it on a regular basis. So it's like my body, my legs, I have been doing this as a habit. I don't know since when. And I'm not even aware that there is this, you know, message from the brain that you need to exert this pressure. Till I realized, and then also for about 4 5 days, even though when I was trying, okay, relax, 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 I kept feeling that no, it wants to exert pressure, it wants to exert pressure. And even now, I mean, I would say it's 70% gone, 30%. I have to keep checking myself, relax, relax. So this when I realized it while I was in the session, my blindness shocked me. So it's, and you see one thing and it shocks you more because you see that if there is this such an obvious thing that is escaping you, and this is not a big very spiritual example, just a regular body example, that I am exerting that pressure, my brain is giving that command, and my brain is wondering why is this happening without knowing that that command is going. I mean, it's really strange. Like, I would not believe it if I would not have experienced it, that is that also a possibility, because it doesn't seem logical to me. So so yeah, to answer your question, this pulp life can very much and is very much in the body too, in the mind, in the body. Where are we going? We don't know how things are happening. So a very long example to a small question. I think I didn't even let you finish. So please, if you want to unmute again and continue.
Yeah, no, but like in reading this paragraph, it says that we should have a very strong urge to know. I mean, within us, there should be a lot of curiosity to find out about the gray areas. But then a lot of times we have this very strong urge, but then there are no answers. So then you have to kind of, settle down thinking that, yes, you don't know a lot of things. And then that's the best way to tell yourself and to feel at peace and to stop that restlessness, that you're not supposed to know everything, probably. You can have that curiosity, but then that curiosity can take you to a certain level. And then beyond that, you have to just let go, let it unfold on its own. Maybe it's not the right time to have the answers.
Yeah. So, there is this, I think one clarity that would be needed. Say, if I have to go, I don't know, 10,000 kilometers away, right? So I will say that no, because I don't know exactly where I have to go, I will not begin, or maybe I don't need to know, or I would say that because it's so far. But how do I do? Like, say, when I'm driving and it's dark, I depend on my headlight, right? So, okay, I cannot see 10,000 kilometers away, but I can see the next 100, 200 meters, right? Because of my headlight. So the idea is that yes, you cannot probably know right in advance where this would end or what I need to know, but there's always something that I can know right now which I don't know. If there's more silence, if there's more stillness, right? If I can sit with myself more calmly, answers themselves come. So it's right what you're saying that not probably the whole 1,000 I can know, but I must be curious for the 100 meters, for the half kilometer that I can actually work and know more. And it's like, it just keeps opening more and more and more and more as you go forward, it keeps opening more doors. There's more learning, there's more learning. And by forward, it could also mean inwards, right? Like the more connected you are, the more suddenly you see things better. They say that in our ancient texts, in Bhagavad Gita, in Bible, and all, when you read it, like there are messages, there are information, there are secrets that are there which kind of gets exposed or they come out when you are ready to receive them. So people like to read them again and again and again, and they see new things. Like when I was younger, I used to love reading fiction books, fictional, like just fiction, stories and all, like huge novels. And even those, because I was a very fast reader, I would reread. Even in fiction, I would see new angles and new things that I had missed every time almost. And that used to surprise me that how did I miss that? So this new thing, like because when I am more present, it keeps opening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's
I also
anything,
think
yeah,
that
sorry.
like a lot of times it feels that I need to know why did this happen? How will it happen if I do this way? And then sometimes it also feels that what's so big about I, that why should I know? I mean, who am I to know everything? So that is also sometimes, it gives you a little comfort when you think like that. Who am I to know everything?
Yeah. And it's written very clearly, even like in lot of places, that you can never know. You will never know, but you can become. When we
Hmm.
talk about truth, because it cannot be expressed in words, right? It cannot be written, it cannot be communicated. Anything that I can say or perceive, because I am limited, right? I have a limited mind, a limited perception, limited words. So anytime I define anything, even if I define unlimited, but if I as a tool am defining something, it will become limited. So no, I probably never will. That's why, so no, in Vedanta also, it's neti neti, right? How do we arrive to the truth? What does the Vedanta says? It says to neti neti, not this, not this, not this is not truth, this is not truth. So I cannot know the truth, but I can know what is not the truth. And when I negate, what I'll be left with would be the truth. So yes, you are right that that can also be an ego thing, right? That I want to know, I want to know. And they say there's nothing to know. You already know. You just have to remove the so many layers that are there. And yet I would never know being mean. But I can become. It's a happening.
In Jetsunma's book also, once she had beautifully mentioned that the more she thought she knew, the more she realized she knew nothing.
Mm.
So that was very beautifully said with the way she explained it in the book.
Yeah.
And coming this from Jetsunma was also surprising that
Yeah.
we would think she would be knowing everything or most of the
Mm.
things.
You see, right now, when I'm not paying attention, right, it just feels that, okay, it's something I haven't paid attention to, and once I do, I'll get it, right? And yet, when I start getting into things, they are, we are talking about limitless here, right? So when we
Yeah.
start going there, we realize that, oh my God, like it's unperceivable, ununderstandable, ungraspable. So,
Yeah.
lot of masters and mystics, like Rumi's one of the most famous quotes is, right, that the farther I go, the more I realized how far I am. Right? No, again, controversial things, illogical things, beyond the mind things. The mind would be like that, that makes no sense. Oh, he must be a poet wanting to make it pretty. It's very beautiful, right? Like just this thing. And yeah, this again, I find this very beautiful. Mother has said that, you keep at it, you keep clearing your, forests and jungles of whatever wheels and all you have. And before you know it, before you think you are ready, a hand will come and pick you up. Like, so I know we are just going off the thing, but yeah, it's nice to share beautiful things even though they are not very relevant. Yeah, so yes.
Yeah. So here I think it's about the beginning. That in the beginning you should have that urge to know about yourself, and then probably later you get to know that there are a lot of things you cannot know.
Yeah. And yet if I stop there, like I cannot know things fully, but what I can know, I must make an effort to know that.
Mhm. But
And
there's
I
so
do
many things
make
like there are
efforts,
no
right?
answers. Like, initially, if you remember, you told me to do that session with Monica, pain and suffering thing. So in that, there used to be always this question in my mind, why did this happen? And so much of anger and frustration. And then, if you remember, there was this person in that session called Reggie. So he just said that, who are you to know everything? So that really sunk in me, that I was so full of this thing that I need to know from the beginning. I have tried to know and I have got to know. I mean, knowledge is something I should have, maybe in a more materialistic way. So how come this I don't know? This is a puzzle I need to solve, kind of a thing. And then when he said this, that who are you to know everything? And then it felt like, yeah, he's so much right. I mean, it was all about I need to know. It's of me that. So that was a little liberating. That I need not. I mean, I need not know everything. Mm.
See, sometimes my knowing can also become egoistic, right? And it
Yeah.
can stop me from actually walking the path where it can take me to that knowing. So it was
Hmm.
beautiful that at that time he could say that, right? Because I was using that as a wall. कि नहीं, पहले बताओ, and not even able to listen to what the things I could get. Yeah. And yet when the being is ready, say, for example, again using a very big example like Buddha, right? Like he saw an old person, he saw a ill person, he saw a dead body, and he said, no, no, this cannot be true, right? This has to be more. And he just left the kingdom, left his newborn baby, left his wife, and became, right, like a bhikshu. And then, I don't know, Hatha Yoga and what all he practiced, years and years and years of meditation. And then he knew, right? Like that is also there, that I too can know. But that also has to be in a very humble way. That too also has to be like, with your head on the floor and tell me, because that is true that being me, I cannot know.
Mm-hmm.
But I can again become more supple, more grounded, more disgusted with my present self, praying to be shown the light so that I can know more and more. So both are true, right? Like, because I'm so logical, I feel that, okay, if it's right, it cannot be left. If I can't know, that doesn't mean I can know. But here it's everything, right? It's right and it's left, and it's
Mm-hmm.
forward and it's back. I can know and yet I can't know. I can't know, but I can become, right? So again and again, what we are seeing, right, is that the limited mind cannot grasp everything, and I have to be okay with, okay, this is true and this too is true, or neither of them are true and they are absolute, relative truths.
Yeah. See, I think it's like when you have to move forward, you need to step somewhere and then move forward. But then you also need to leave that foundation of that place where you stepped on. So, and then, like when you say a lot of times that I don't know, sometimes it surprises me that she doesn't know, she would know. But then your every paragraph, whatever you say, usually ends with I don't know.
Actually, I think it's a beautiful place to be when you are so unsure of what you know, right? Because you have seen that the lot that you claim to know was very limited, right? It was very one sided. So it's not a
Mhm.
strategy, it's actually a very genuine thing that दिख तो ये रहा है ना, बट बहुत कुछ देखा है जो पूरी तरह दिखा नहीं कभी, तो जो दिख भी रहा है वो भी कितना दिख रहा है, यू डोंट नो.
Mhm. Yeah.
So should I bring that up?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing I could remember, my mother always used to tell me that, you know, try to let the other person finish. She would tell me that, you are so much in hurry, Jagan, to tell something to people that you miss those details that others tell you. And I will be honest that I've never listened to her. I said, okay, I will practice that. I'll practice that. But never. I'm always excited to tell things. I'm always excited to empty my cup of, my little cup of whatever I have. But even reading this passage in the beginning, I read it twice. First time 20%, second time still 30%. There's 70% details I've missed, although I've read it because one line went by and I'm like, oh, this is it. This is it. Okay, I know. And then the next passage, I missed so many details. Um, and also, like you are saying, ma'am, that to know all, I'm just rephrasing this again because I'm a bad listener, is to that ego consciousness that how could you not know, like reading a book of 100 pages, I'm stuck at the on page 20 and I'm not getting it, and the consciousness tells me that how can you not get this, and it doesn't take me anywhere. I spend 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours on that one page, although the whole book can be finished in a couple of hours. So getting in the process of getting over it right now. It's hardly been near 2 weeks since this new habit has been put to practice. But also, it's very it's very sad of how you know how the consciousness has grown up as I've added numbers to my age. Um, I remember myself being this 4-year-old. I used to live in Alibag. Uh, It's a small town near Mumbai. I lived there for a year, and there were so many places, like, so many dark, not dark, but so many curious places to explore. That it was, it was a small town in the middle of, in the middle of the woods. It's like an island town, because we had to go by a boat to Mumbai. So me and my friends, we are 4 5 year olds, even less than that, I don't remember, and we would go on to explore these places. Such day, we didn't know what was in there, and back then I had no transaction in my mind. I wouldn't say that, okay, I will explore this cave or this kind of a forest today, and I'll get something out of it, or I'm going to learn something from it. It was just natural curiosity to see what is there, and to kind of not learn, just to see what is there. And that curiosity I've lost growing up. Everything's become a transaction. If I read this, what will I get? If I meditate, what will I get? If I read a book of mother, what will I get? But why not just read it for the sake of reading it, and not worrying about, okay, will I remember this, or will I learn something from this, or will it make give me anything? Just just read it, like a kid explores things without expecting. So, yeah, just wanted to share.
Yes, thank you, Jagan. Actually, it's very important, this, what is the center of my operation, right? Is it curiosity? Is it love for knowing? Center of my operation for relationships. That if I'm scolding, shouting, screaming, do I remember that I'm doing it because I love and I want the best? Being reminded of that is very good. And I would want to share that I actually feel the opposite. I feel you hear too much and you should actually interrupt people and say कि हाँ हाँ मुझे समझ आ गया. So it's so amazing how everybody has different images, right, about different people, and how we are not one, we are many. You are different in front of your mother, you're different, right? And we have met. So it's really interesting. And when we see this, it's good for us not to form any images. And if we have any images, we can let those go so that I can be everything, right?
Like, I've sort of mastered this way of acting, like, I am listening to this person, although half the time I am in my own world. Even my teachers, engineering teachers, would say, wow, you listen so attentively, but no, in my head I'm doing something else. So that there's a lack of sincerity between the outer and inner nature. I just want to match them.
Yeah. And yet, Jagan, a lot of what is thrown at us is useless. So it's also good to know when to listen, when to go somewhere else, because what you're listening to doesn't add value. And I think I've shared this and I really like it. I keep reminding myself of it, according to the Upanishads, when Upanishads defined Vidya, which we call as knowledge, right? And avidya. So this, it was said that Vidya is only that knowledge that tells you more about your true self. That is Vidya. That is something worth gaining. And avidya is rest of the billion things in the world which we want to know, could know, don't want to know, and yet things are thrown at us, which are not telling us, helping us reach our true self. That is just trash. That's just, it's not knowledge. Although it comes wearing the garb of knowledge. कह रहे पता तो होना चाहिए, पता तो होना चाहिए, but क्या करें, इतना पता पता जो है उससे क्या करा ना, मतलब, but yeah, I mean, for each his own, and yet just talking about the terminologies and yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll just go through it line by line. It was very simple, so yeah, but we are in no rush. So you must have a great deal of sincerity, a little courage and perseverance, and then a sort of mental curiosity. You understand, curious, seeking to know, interested, wanting to learn. Great deal of sincerity, but a little bit courage and perseverance would do. Curiosity, seeking to know, wanting to learn. Why am I doing this? Because I want to know. Why am I doing this? Because I want to learn. Not because as a means to an end, which my life has become most of the times. To love to learn, that one must have in one's nature. We see this in some people, and it's very beautiful when you see somebody passionately following something just because they want to know, they're curious, they want to know. And in the essence of, say, Mother and Sri Aurobindo's teaching, especially in their schools that are inspired by their teaching, this element, especially in the younger classes, is very much there. When my child had joined Sikshanta, because I had never allowed him to play in sandpits, कि कहीं खा ना ले and all. So for the first 1 month, he refused to go in the class. He just wanted to play in the sandpit. So the didis there, like they don't call them teachers, they call didi and bhaiya. So the didis would let him like play for an hour, 2 hour. Then they'll say, "Acha kuch kha lo, 10 minute ke liye aa jao." So he would go. Then he'll forget half an hour. He'll say, then he'll remember, oh, sandpit. He'll again come back, and they were very happy with it. I remember there was one child who had some fascination with water, and he would not go to his class, and there was a small fish pond there. He would just lie on the border of the fish pond the whole day. One somebody can say that ये क्या school है, ये क्या मजाक हो रहा है, right? And yet, when say my child had enough, after a month he happily went inside. And that fish boy, I'm sure, did the same. But to let them be, to explore, see the fascination, feel the grains. If that's what they are loving, more grace and power to them, let them. But that's what we kill, right? That's what we want to do. That अरे पढ़ क्या रहे हो, कर क्या रहे हो, दिखाओ क्या सीखा है, क्या है ना, इसका रिजल्ट क्या है. And that is why I think everything is becoming just less juicy, right? Less juice there is, less life there is. And we feel that when we start living like that. But once we see it, we can try to bring it back. I think there's this quote from Sri Aurobindo that the first rule of teaching is that nothing can be taught. How he says that a guru, a teacher, is just a torch that lights the way, and you know everything, you see everything yourself. So if we have this, if you love to learn, and even I think in the ashram school, there's no grading, there are no class, subjects as such, there are none. Like if you don't want to read this, if you don't want to go there, just do what you want to. And that is a ground for so many scientific discoveries and curiosities, and so many people from there go to such creative fields because they were not forced to do what they didn't want to do. And Tara Didi, who's now running the Delhi ashram, she's the head of Delhi ashram, Tara Johar. So she, as a child, there are a lot of books about, her interaction with the mother. She just didn't like studying at all. So she went to the mother and said, "Mujhe nahi padna." So mother said, "Then what do you want to do, child?" And she said, "I want to do sports." So she said, "Okay, so from today you do sports." So she stopped all the classes. She just started training in so many things. And because obviously you have to interact, you have to do things, you have to calculate even when you're on the field, right? She learned everything. Today she is a Padma Bhushan awardee running the Delhi ashram, who didn't go to school, who doesn't have any degrees, just because she followed her passion. And yet, if I share this story, people would say, but there's just maybe few handful of such taras in the world. But there are, right? Like if we give the right attitude, the right atmosphere, the right nurture, growth is more possible in less structured, definable things. So to love to learn, that one must have in one's nature. And I think, Jagan, the example that you shared, right, that in the beginning you would just do it for the love. And now, because most of the things are means to an end, that thing has gone, right? And that happens with most of. So, not to be able to bear standing before something grey, all hazy, in which nothing is seen clearly, and which gives you quite an unpleasant feeling. For you do not know where you begin and where you end, what is yours and what is not yours, and what is settled and what is not. So this is how we kind of get more and more and more clarity, both within and out. That okay, I'm not liking this. I'm not, another just an example from last week. Like there is a certain there are like a few relationships that you have in which you feel that some level of calling needs to happen, that you must check on certain people. And there are some people who expect me to do that call ideally maybe once a week, and usually I'm unable to do that, and it's like 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months at times. And then there's a voice that says कि अरे they are expecting kabhi to kar lo. And logically, as a duty, as a responsibility, it feels one must. And yet when I make that call, of there's I'm getting a feeling कि, oh, I wish they don't pick up, oh, I wish, and stuff. So every time when I don't do it for say 3 months, 4 months, and when I do it, I feel okay, this time I might be better, there's more stillness, I feel I worked on myself. And yet when I made that call last week, I again felt that same kind of repulsion or resistance. And yet the mind was like, नहीं इतना तो बनता है, इतना तो बनता है. But then I asked myself, कि my body, my mind is strongly resisting, right? They don't want to do it. So they are getting something, they are hearing something which they don't want to hear. And yet the mind is saying, I must. So I will honor what my body is saying, and I will not make another call now. No matter what somebody is expecting. वैसे भी expectations तो 1 week या 6 months में करके भी कौन से brownie point मिल रहे हैं. But 6 months maybe why should I crush myself for 30 minutes, for example? I don't remember why I shared this where we were, but not to be able to bear standing before something gray, like even though it was gray, like I couldn't understand. And yet, and even though the mind was saying that you are being irrational and this doesn't make sense, itna to banta hi hai. And yet, when the resistance is so strong and so persistent, sometimes you have to transcend even your mind and say कि हाँ logic है but नहीं हो रहा है मुझसे, right? So I felt really liberated when I mean, right now also I'm feeling a bit of resistance. कि अरे अरे करना तो चाहिए. But sometimes the mind also can be said that nahi, I will honor what I am. That thing that I feel when I'm making that call. I don't want to put myself in that situation. So not to be able to bear standing before something grey, all hazy in which nothing is seen clearly and which gives you quite an unpleasant feeling. For you do not know where you begin and where you end, what is yours and what is not yours. I think this is referring to all the conditionings, right? That we have, the lot of aims, the goals, the priorities that we have in our lives are not really ours. They're given to us. I picked up this from this place, this from that movie, this from that novel, this from that person, and I say, this is me. And if I ask myself, why do I like this? Why am I doing this? Why am I reacting like that? A lot of it I don't. What is yours, what is not yours, what is settled, what is not settled, and that brings us to this pulp-like thing that we were talking about, that you call yourself, in which things get intermingled and act upon one another without even you being aware. Like, I don't realize that I have picked it up from there. Don't realize how things work, how badly conditioned I am. Think like that, to believe like that. And especially when we, interact cross cultures from people from different countries, we see the different cultures. We see that one thing in one culture can be really opposite in the other culture. So it's not a very rational thing. It's just what people believe in and how they're used to think. Yeah, anything till here?
Yes, I think it's very interesting that you brought this topic up, because just my older one and I were earlier in the evening, we went out for a walk and we were just talking about things. And one of the things was that it's my younger one's birthday tomorrow. And, you have to do those customary calls, to your family, or they have to call you. And some of the things seem so superficial because nobody really cares a frig who is calling, or like it's just on the top. Like, I don't know whether innately anybody wants to wish or has that, but you just, like, what do they say? Dikhave ke liye aap, baat kar rahe ho. And I was just thinking, and I was telling my daughter, I said, it's very, I think, for me, it's very difficult to see her being sort of traumatized and putting her in this position that she's not wanting to talk, but she has to pick up that phone and she has to talk, and she's going to be judged if she comes on FaceTime. And why do I have to do this? Like, I was just thinking that in such a difficult position I'm in as a mother, that I have to put my daughter through this, when she vehemently in the morning told me, oh my God, do I have to call up and do I have to speak, And so just to speak to what you were saying, right? Like, you don't want this kind of like a repulsion. There's like nothing there. On one hand, you're doing all these spiritual things and you are operating in that plane where you are really seeking very deeper things, and you're questioning so many things. And then you have to come into the real world and have to play this kind of a role where everything is superficial and you have to do certain things which just sort of goes against your grain and doesn't make sense. And like, why do we have to do this? It's just so much of formality. And could I just skip this? And like how you said that, I go through that. Like, I'm calling and I'm like, please don't pick up, don't pick up. I don't want to talk, don't pick up. And I'm then so happy when they don't pick up, because I'm like, okay, I did my duty, but the person didn't pick up. So
Yes, Vasu. And a lot really also depends on our own upbringing and how courageous our parents were when they had to stand up to things like that. I was blessed to be born to a set of parents who never told us that we have to do anything for the sake of formality. At least that is my experience. I don't know about my siblings. Like any wedding, any function, if you don't want to go, you don't go. If you don't want to call, you don't call. If you don't want to do this, you don't do this. It's totally fine. If you want to meet people, you go, even if it's like a very close marriage. So, and yet, it is I who's saying that, oh, I have that customary phone call. So it's strange that how we are not one, we are many. But when we start saying no, when we start saying that, array, she doesn't want to or something, or it's just, we can, it does change things. Like people do respond, people do understand, I've seen. Although they might be shocked initially, but then they actually start respecting and protecting that aspect of you as well. Yeah. Baby steps.
I'm really not sure how relevant this is to the topic at hand right now, but this thing about the formality that is going on, like discussing. I've observed that to to a greater extent, um, losing myself as I've grown up was because of this very formality. I had to write this down. Couldn't get my mind around this, but there were so many things behind doing something that the consciousness never accepted. The 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 expectation of the pride element to everything, you know, and the fear of losing connections, you know, and you know that if I don't have a connection, then tomorrow something happens, who will be there? But that it's such a cowardly thing to say, to be honest, for someone who talks to mother every day in his head. And I've had a boss when I last year, not last year, 2021, in Brantford. I used to live in Brantford, Ontario. He was a very good friend of mine. He would tell me repeatedly that uh, it is not what you know, it is who you know. And he had so many connections and all. It just never resonated with me because I've never made connections. I've never made friends for anything, I've never made a friend thinking that, oh, tomorrow maybe he'll help me out. I just made friends because I just loved them. And I would keep on asking myself this, that I've kind of, there were times when I said, just sorry for the language, but I said, just screw this. And I don't want to, whatever happens, happens. Just let it be. But that happened only 30% of the time, I'd say. Most of the time, it's always a fear. Where I want to be, I know, is to have this, you know, to have this concrete faith in the mother. Like I was talking to Monica ma'am, that I want to feel the mother's presence as if it is the most tangible thing in my life. And yeah, I just want to have that faith that, if my consciousness is not accepting me to celebrate my birthday with 35 people, yet it's a pride element to call all 35 people and to to be honest with you, to waste so much money, so much money on food and alcohol, that for some people it's a fun, but the last celebration I've had was the saddest celebration of my all my birthdays. And uh, yeah, so because of all these also, these things have in a way contributed towards losing myself and losing that inner calling. That inner calling is strong for a child. It keeps on talking, it never stops talking. It's just that this I like to call this the lower nature, because that is what it is. And it controls my mind, my actions so much that at one point, even though my inner calling is shouting at me, I cannot listen to it anymore. Yeah, so that's all. Thank you.
Lot of things, Jagan, that you share, you say that from a very sad point, and yet I find them to be so auspicious. Even this birthday example, you were saying, oh, this was the saddest birthday. And yet to be able to reach the bottom, to when, so that next time when something in me says कि अच्छा हाँ हाँ फिर करते हैं, देखो बड़ा मजा आएगा, इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग इस बार वो एक्सपीरियंस अगर हो चुका है कि ओ माय गॉड दैट वाज द वर्स्ट एवर, so that thing, that experience is needed for that strength कि अब नहीं चाहिए, है ना, अब नहीं मानूंगा, बिकॉज जब तक देयर इज समथिंग इन मी रेडी टू बी कन्विंस्ड कि हाँ हाँ इस बार मिल जाएगा, 35 में मजा नहीं आया, चलो 34 बुला लेंगे, उनमें मजा आ जाएगा, पैसे भी कम खर्च होंगे, है ना, एक जना कम हो गया। तो जब तक हम ऐसी ट्रेडिंग और बार्गेनिंग करते रहेंगे, तो वही लॉट ऑफ वी रीड दिस ऑफन दैट डिसगस्ट फ्रॉम आवर हैबिट्स, फ्रॉम आवर पैटर्न्स, फ्रॉम आवर ये मुझे ये देगा, फ्रॉम द डिजायर्स इज नीडेड फॉर अस टू से कि बस और नहीं, हाँ मतलब हो गया। So it's really good to be able to experience this in full sincerity and honesty and feel the pain while the pain is there, so that one can remember कि अगली बार जब कुछ कह रहे हैं कि हाँ ये करते हैं, तो वो याद रहे कि नहीं मुझे बहुत दर्द हुआ था, मुझे नहीं करना। That can really help us in not going where we don't need to go. ये कुछ खराब नहीं हो रहा है, yes, this is all going towards right only.
Sometimes on a different plane, I envy people like Jagan. I'm just like, I wish I could turn back the hands of time, and considering at that age to have so much of insight. And, otherwise that might be an age that you want to party and you want to do all those things, which pretty much that decade brings, right? Like, and still to have that foresight and to keep reflecting and being aware. And then I keep thinking, like, whenever I'm in all these groups, I always keep thinking that what is it that all these young people are so reflective about? And then it draws me that because they're so spiritually inclined, and that's why no matter what, like, I try my best that I can attend these sessions. It really gives me so much grounding. No matter whatever chaos happens in my life, it's like my refuge. You come here and you're in a totally different space. And I think maybe that's the reason, at least I'm presuming, that people like Jagan, because he wants to have those conversations every day and he's operating in that plane, is that he has the good sense and the ability to dissect things that he does, and to be very raw and vulnerable, and like constantly, like I've seen in so many sessions, himself and Nandini and all such young people having this kind of reflection and awareness. And I'm like, what is it that sets them apart from maybe other people who are young, who just go about their life so robotically without pausing? And then I'm like, the one factor I really think is the spirituality. And that is what is so commendable, that it can just really, really ground you. It can make you humble. It can make you opening to listening to other people, patience. I don't know, the list is like endless. So I just like the sessions and all the reflections and sharing.
And while you were sharing, I think one thing that I feel is common is, sensitivity to pain. Because lot of times, I mean, most of the time, we all have issues, we have challenges, we have pain, but we are able to divert ourselves, right? We have to say, oh, no, 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 let's go for partying and this will all be forgotten. And yet, that inability to unsee the pain that my ways and my life is causing me and others is also something that really pushes one towards wanting to work on oneself and get oneself out of the picture. Yeah. Thank you for that comment. Very motivating.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vasu. It's really sweet of you. Also, ma'am, like you were saying, to look at when you were saying how I talk about things from this sad perspective, and that's so true when I was thinking about it. Because, like I said, when I said this is the worst birthday I've had this year, it is also now I realize, like 2 3 minutes ago, this is also the best birthday I've had, because now I realize how, so there is this light that I'm able to see, that this is not how birthdays are meant to be. So yeah, so a lot of pessimism in my approach. I need to be a little bit more optimistic, but yeah, thanks for sharing.
I would not call it pessimism, but yeah, one must see through that too. I am not an advocate or anything from Shikshantar, but just sharing since we were talking about birthdays. So in their school, there was no gifts. They were not allowed to take any sweets or something like, you usually take in schools, right? We used to have gifts that we would give people, lollipops, sketch pens, whatever. So nothing of that sort is allowed. So the child whose birthday it is, uh, they have a beautiful birthday song that everybody sings, that happy birthday to you, happy birthday to me. We are all we are born every day and we are born free. So that is like the song they sing. And then all the people of the class, that birthday person sits in this, they sit in a circle and everybody tells what they like about that person. So how do they think this is how they relate to them? So somebody would say, I love to do monkey bars with him. He's really good. Those things that would help us in thinking. And the teacher, the didis would say, 2 मिनट्स आइस क्लोज करके सोचो कि तुमको उसके बारे में सबसे अच्छा क्या लगता है, फिर वो शेयर करो. तो दिस इज लाइक अ गिफ्ट राइट फ्रॉम देम to the child, that this is what I love about you, and the child feels so enabled. And yeah, and then they are welcome to take anything cooked from home, say makhanas or halwa, home cooked, and they can share that with their friends during lunch time. So I think that's really very beautiful to be able to do that at that level of humility and humbleness, no show offs, no nothing, and yet very special. And again, I'm so sorry I'm going off topic. Here there was this Valentine's Day, and this time, they were told that they can make cards for everybody in school in Canada here. So I again made him sit and I told him that for everybody, you tell me what you like and we'll write that, right? Okay, Joey, you have the most beautiful smile. And we wrote all that. And then it took a lot of time, right, to make individual cards and to write those comments. And next day he came and he was like, his hand was on his head. All everybody did was just Happy Valentine's Day, Happy Valentine. Like all the cards that everybody gave me or anybody gave anybody was just Happy Valentine's Day. That's it. So you made me work so much, write so much. And sir was also saying that what have you written? It wasn't needed. So it's funny, and yet, we don't realize how far we come when we just, what's the point of giving 25 cards with just, Happy Valentine's Day if we can't even say one nice thing about the other person, but to each his own. But yeah.
It's like those birthday reminders from Facebook, they're like, tomorrow is this person's birthday. So you're like, okay, happy birthday, happy. And even for that, now you don't even need to write happy birthday. Automatically, there'll be a template, ready-made messages coming. So it makes your life so much more easier that there's nothing just robotically, okay, fine, like happy birthday. I don't care if it's your birthday or not, just happy birthday, happy birthday. So I think like what you mentioned about that, I think maybe that's why your son must be like, I put in so much of effort and everybody just wrote one line. And yeah, but it is sad. It's, like, I think what you did was so beautiful because, this school that you spoke about and the values. And I have some of my friends who are teachers, and it's so heartening to see that when they say that we feel so grateful and we feel so fulfilled when our, former students come to us and they say that, thank you so much for helping us to be better human beings. Because every time it's all the learning, right? It's like by rote learning. But what you mentioned about what is knowledge and what is education, and this kind of a free play and this kind of exploring, and how much you can learn from nature and from doing things and feeling, the sand. And I think that's true education and knowledge. And I think we just need it more so now in these times, that we can have these young minds develop that innate goodness, which is there, right? We talk always that it's there. We just need to ignite it. We just need to, it's just so deep recesses of our mind or body. It's like, buried. So that was really nice that it was. I'm sure your son will one day realize how lovely it was to do that exercise, and it'll make him so much. I'm sure he's a much more better human being to be able to do that, and that's really fantastic for you to do it.
So in terms of this, I think we'll end here today. It's already beyond the thing. So we've just taken the first like half of the paragraph. So we'll take an overlap and then we'll start with the reflections of, you ask yourself, why have I done this? And you know nothing about it. So I think even if a bit of seeking is ignited in us, that would be so wonderful, like this. Asking the right questions about things that actually matter and the usual things that we are involved with. But yeah, know how again by my stumblings the world is perfected, so I'm doing my share. So if there's any last comment, please unmute and share. Otherwise, we'll end here today. Okay, so just taking a minute to thank especially the company that one has, that one can have this space to discuss these things, which bring so much expansion, joy, curiosity, gratefulness in my life. Sharing the merit of any expansion that I might have accumulated with everybody. Not everybody has the time or the curiosity or the inclination to sit and reflect on these beautiful teachings of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. and other mistakes, but I do. So when I'm sitting here, when I'm understanding, when I'm trying to incorporate it in my everyday, may I do it for everybody, and may everybody get lit by this light. Thank you so much. Have a good morning and a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.